Well, for more on that on those stories coming out of Libya, we're joined by Mr. Webster Griffin Tarpley, who is an author and historian, joining us on the line from Washington. Mr. Tarpley, as always, thank you very much for joining our broadcast. Now, this looks like just another war waged by the West that civilians are bearing the brunt of, doesn't it?
Well, the difference here, of course, is that the NATO and CIA have an infantry, and in that case, it's made up of people with heavy representation from Al-Qaeda, the Libyan Islamic Fighting Group, and various Islamist rebels. And that's pretty much what the Benghazi Rebel Council is made up of. Their infantry is obviously a kind of rabble in arms. As long as they're up in these mountains of the West, and as long as they're getting plenty of arms shipments from the French, which they've been getting, and of course NATO airstrikes, they're able to make a certain amount of progress. But what you see now, as soon as they get down into that plain where Tripoli is 60 or 70 miles away, they're subjected to counterattacks, and I think they're going basically nowhere. This Gwalish, the word here from CBS and BBC is that Gwalish is now in the hands of Gaddafi forces, so that maybe will be a seesaw battle. But I think the bigger picture is we're now on the eve of the 14th of July, so it's Bastille Day. And this is a tremendous embarrassment for President Sarkozy of France. Who would have thought when he started bombing Libya on the 19th of March that we'd be on the 14th of July and Gaddafi is still holding out, much longer than Serbia did under a NATO bombing campaign 10 years ago. In the meantime, we've got Norway dropping out of the air war. This was 10% of the whole NATO effort, Norway dropping out. The Netherlands say they will continue to fly in the no-fly zone, but they will not bomb. Prime Minister Berlusconi of Italy says that he regrets the whole thing. He was forced into it. He'd like to get out of it. And there's the Northern League, his opposition, which is going to pressure him to get out of it. And finally, here in the United States, we're 16 votes away in the House of Representatives from passing a resolution to cut off all funds for this adventure, this neo-imperialist escapade that Obama's got going. And we've got essentially the perspective that the Cole Amendment, which has already been passed by the House, is cutting off all money to the rebels, no training and no weapons for these rebels, because U.S. public opinion is learning who they are, and who they are is Al-Qaeda.
Right, so Mr. Tarpley, where did it all go so wrong? Certainly these countries, especially the United States, went into this Libya war with a plan in mind. So where did it all go wrong for them?
Well, the plan goes back to at least November of last year, when the secret British-French treaty was signed to bomb Libya sometime during 2011. The idea was to attack and loot and despoil Italy, Libya, get the Italians out. The idea was that Libya has all of this wonderful reserve of very high-quality light crude oil, and it's also got the great man-made river, Gaddafi's huge irrigation project, which means that it's one of the main concentrations of fresh water available in North Africa and the Middle East. So those were the two targets. And this was then going to become South Mistral, and that's the bombing that we're seeing now. Except that as the Euro crisis spreads, all of these countries are more and more bankrupt. They lack the sinews of war. I think the NATO effort is on its way to collapsing. And at that point, the entire war will come to an end, because the rebels simply cannot continue without this tremendous financial, military, diplomatic, media, and other support from the NATO imperialist coalition.
All right, we'll have to leave it there for now. That was Mr. Webster Griffin Tarpley, author and historian, joining us on the line from Washington. Mr. Tarpley, as always, we do appreciate your insight here at Press TV.